What's up, folks? Quick intro to this video. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska, and just threw a little workout together just to, show you guys what's going on. Enjoy it, and if you have any questions, as always, leave a comment down below or reach out. Backwards walking is an outstanding lower body warm-up exercise. I'd even argue it's the best lower body warm-up exercise, but of course I'm biased. After all, backwards walking progressions played a crucial part in my own personal recovery. Using a powered-off treadmill is actually one of the easiest ways to attack backwards walking while in the gym. And to make the most of your exercise, put intention behind each step. Push with the toes, especially the big toe, as you roll back into the ball of the foot, and then use the heel, reaching back behind you as far as you can with each step to get a killer burn in those quads. Here in this clip, I just switched treadmills because this one has the option to increase elevation. I thought it would make it a greater challenge for me, but in reality, the elevation just made it easier for the belt to slip through with each step, so the flatter treadmill proved more difficult. But feel free to try different options with yours. It's a new gym, I've never been here, so it's always different. And I'm basically just running through the exercises I intend to do as my upper body shoulder warm-up with this light band before deciding which band to use. I'll go into each exercise here in a second. So I ended up rolling with the thickest band they had here for this particular exercise, but there's always good and bad trade-offs. For one, the thicker band, it's harder to get maximum range of motion under tension because it just doesn't expand as far. Whereas the thinner band offers little resistance, but it was, it would give me the full range. So trade-offs. So this exercise is great for warming up the shoulders and stimulating the rear delts and chest. It's super easy to do, but you can see here the trade-off I talked earlier about with the band being too tight and offering resistance through a shorter range of motion. This particular exercise, meant to kind of warm up the front delts a little bit, was impossible with the chosen band. So instead I took the opportunity to showcase some easy alternatives with the same movement. So, great front delt activation, warming up the shoulder across a broad range of motion. This exercise with the band is like the reverse of behind the neck presses, which are one of my favorite things to do. It's really great. You just kind of pull the band apart and bring it behind your back. You can extend the range by trying to extend your arms behind your back, but a lot of people struggle with that. So my recommendation is just don't go through pain. If you can, band that you got, no pain. This exercise proved difficult with the tighter band, but the purpose of it is to get some blood flow into the chest at its longer range position while stimulating the shoulders. The Smith machine had one of these little blades for catching the bar, so it worked well for an overhead perch for the band. The band was just a little too tight. So instead I opted for a far more expensive variation, the cable pulley machine. If you have one of these, then boy oh boy, you're set for a gazillion different exercises, my goodness. But the same principle applies here, and honestly, I like it better. If you don't want to get creative with your band use, this is definitely a better option, and you can get full range. So because I'd climbed a 1,200 meter mountain the other day, I felt I needed to give my overworked and underpaid calves a little bit of love. So I threw down a single set of tibialis raises to failure for old time's sake. And if you were ever a parkour student of mine, then you'll be all too familiar with this exercise. To my previous students, I say you're welcome because shin splints are undoubtedly not a problem for you. After the front of my shins was burning, I figured it a good idea to get after the back as well. Almost immediately while tackling these bent knee calf raises, which I normally rep single-legged with 50-pound dumbbell in one hand. My goodness, those babies were sore from yesterday. Sheesh. Apparently the mountain climb was enough of a workout, so I left my calves alone for the rest of the session. Alright, so here we go. Meat and potatoes of the workout. First item on the menu was a seated trap 3 raise. Doable in almost any chair, but ideal with an adjustable bench like this. These babies are extremely difficult, and most folks struggle to reach 10% of their body weight in each hand. It's toughest at the top, and it really helps rebalancing of the body through overall back and shoulder strength. Next up was a personal favorite, the crossbench pullover. This variation of the pullover is so nice for lengthening and strengthening your shoulders, your lats, and your upper back. You know what? It's surprisingly difficult to hold the neck up in this position too. Great neck health exercise as well. Just a quick clip of me making sure this bar was the standard 45 pounds. You never know with these small town gyms. I'm telling you. Satisfied I wasn't being cheated, I set up two 45-pound plates to elevate my heels and warmed up the knees with a dozen or so reps of full range squats. Knees already being warmed up from the short range backwards walking I did earlier. This is just, to further grease the groove, you could say, ensuring the heavier loads feel just as delicious. With only 125 pounds on my back, this exercise is very safe, minus a shaky double plate setup that nearly shot out from underneath my feet. It's funny, I carry a lot of equipment I need in the van with me on my travels across the world, but I prefer going into gyms cold and figuring it out. It helps put me into the perspective of my client who has to do the same thing. Speaking of which, here's a clip where I try to figure out a comfortable setup for some Nordic curls. Get some action under those hammies. I gave up with this idea and went with something a little less padded and comfortable, but you get the point. It's sometimes tricky when you go into a new gym. Nordic curls, a fan favorite. Just kidding, these things are freaking brutal. Seemingly impossible to the average Joe and incredibly difficult to progress with. This exercise is a secret weapon for rebalancing and strengthening one's hammies. My own inability to perform a single good rep was disappointing, but, very motivating. I'll be working harder on these going forward. It's been a while since I've done them. Figured I'd finish off the first set with some obligatory scapular raises and pull-ups. Important for hundreds of different reasons, of course, but especially for a parkour athlete vying for total bodily control. Wanting to pace myself, I called it after 5 just for the first set here. It's important to note here, a lot of personal trainers I've discussed the matter with they got varied opinions when it comes to how exercises should be programmed. Superset, all at once, antagonistic muscle group superset, etc. I like them all, folks. They all have their place. Personally, when I get to choose, I like to hit every exercise one after the other in a huge superset. But with equipment to share, specific goals and personal preference, other options become more prudent, more acceptable. So, I've programmed different stuff for different people, and I do different stuff for myself as well. It's just a matter of what you feel like doing. They all have their place. Mid-set, though, I raised the weight on these trap threes from 10% body weight to 12% body weight after hurling the 10s around just a little bit too easily. And round 2 of the bomb.com crossbench pullover. This particular exercise was extremely difficult and even painful when I first started off years ago. Using just a small little 10-pound dumbbell. It sucked, but with consistent progressions and, the occasional regression, got me to where I can hurl around 25% or more of my body weight super easily. I heavily debated going hard in today's session for the gram, but pushing myself for a 1 to 2 rep max, I just settled on keeping it chill, working the basics for some comfortable weight. Not that my max squat would be very impressive in the first place, but, of course, some might be impressed by 135-pound ass to grass, but, impressive iron pushing isn't what I do. I'm a mobility expert who specializes in solving people's chronic pain, injuries, and joint problems. It's just not what I do. Gosh, I love these Nordic curls. I felt it important here to show you folks the progression. If you bend at the hips a significant amount, it becomes notably easier to finish the Nordic curl. But having done full Nordics in the past, I'd rather just focus on the maximum effort with eccentrics than half reps at the moment. It's just a personal preference. Helps lengthen and strengthen my hamstrings evenly. All right, I'll admit it. I'm not perfect. I forgot to throw in my rotator cuff exercise in the first superset. Whoops. Oh well. Rather than forgetting it altogether or just moving on, I figured I might as well just throw it in the second set here. This one's super duper helpful for rebalancing and balancing out shoulder ability. As a dynamic mover and extreme sports athlete, I'm always beating the crap out of my shoulders. So while they are strong, they're not balanced without using this exercise. I'll tell you that right now. When I started with this, it was extremely difficult to even do it with 5 pounds, let alone this 20 pounds that I'm using right now. 10% of your body weight's a really good goal for this, but um, I actually regressed a little bit in the past 7 weeks because I've been doing it. I used to be able to do 25 pounds pretty easily for 10 reps, so gotta get back up there. I'm I'm not a big fan of pull-ups. They're hard, and my ADHD goes wild after about 10 reps. So I usually aim for the 10 to 15 rep set. Um, for those interested in learning how to do perfect pull-ups, I've taught these to dozens of people, if not hundreds, no, definitely hundreds of people to date, how to get chest to bar pull-ups. A lot of them having never done pull-ups before in their life. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. I can definitely help you get there. Finally, as a cool down, instead of just stretching, going for a light jog or whatever, I actually like to hit single sets of a few of the exercises I didn't get a chance to do, at a super lightweight. This exercise is called the seated good morning, and it feels legendary on the lower back and glutes. More on that in a different video. And this one is kind of my bread and butter. It's called the Jefferson curl, and I'm a huge fan. Um, but there you go, folks. This was a day at the gym. It's Coach Parkour Steve. Hope this provided some value to you guys. And if you have any questions or would like to hop on a call to chat about your problems that you'd like some help with, hit me up. Contact links are in the description. But you guys know how to get a hold of me. Parkour Steve across all social media. Till next time.